need to get started. We have two missions reports this morning at 10 o'clock. And so we're looking forward to that. And as we conclude the missions conference this week, it's been a great missions conference. It really has been. Reverend Stanley from Central Union Mission did a tremendous job with at the men's breakfast. We asked the questions, and that's a real frontline ministry, isn't it? When you're doing rescue work, I mean, it's just, and not many people can do that, but he's the right guy in the right position for that. He really is. And of course, Lagaya at the breakfast or at the brunch for the ladies, and a lot of good reports back from that. And so now you notice Teresa's not here, or else we'd have a lot of games to play and stuff like that. That's the truth. And I'm sorry. I apologize to the heaters. And if you look at your mission book, they squished you. I don't know how that is. Yeah, I guess I said you must be in a zip file. So I don't know. So I think there's a proportional problem there. I guess. So anyway, but Teresa put the book together, just tremendous, and enjoyed that. And the banquet's good. I mean, they always do a great job on the banquet, and then last night was tremendous. And so we're looking forward we have two mission reports today, one from the heaters and one from Pat Lackey. And so we'll open with a word of prayer. Then John, let you come up and do your thing, and then turn it over to Pat, and we'll let her have the rest of the morning. I mean, what's that? Well, that's what I have on my sheet here. Let me see the official sheet here. Oh no, you're right. Pat Lackey's back with the children. So John, you got the whole thing, except the whole thing we just gave 15 minutes of it away. So, so let's have a word of prayer, and we'll have John come on up here. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you, Lord, for the privilege of being here. We just pray, Lord, as John gives his report this morning, that John and Linda, Lord, that we'll be attentive and be in prayer and be able to see how we could further support this ministry. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So.
Thank you. So we've been with Teams now. In November, it'll be 8 years. And this has been just a tremendous blessing for us. You look back 8 years, you look back and you think, well, wow, what has happened and what got us through. And we always said at the beginning, it was pretty amazing how God took the gifts and the ability he gave us, and we can see we've learned in the past and ways God's used us in the past that he's choosing to use us here at Teams for Medical Missions. And you kind of go, oh, this is why we went through this. So this is our artsy photo that I added to start us off, because you have to have a good photo from the mission field. This is the back of a veranda. This is Teams house, and this is where we start our days. And you can see the Caribbean Sea from our house. It's not a long drive to beach. I mean, long walk to the beach, but the beach is not like right there. You got to get down to it. But there's a little town in between. But that's our photo from Teams house. So moving on. This picture we chose to include because this is our last J team from February of 2020. And if you can picture us in February of 2020, we were having a problem that we were not having enough space in the house for every single J teamer. Every bed was filled. It was, we had several ministries summer missions trips in a row that we just were seeing the group growing and people were coming back again. And we were pretty psyched. This was like one of the last nights we all went out to a restaurant. We were very, very excited about what God was going to do in the next year. And then March happened. So, but the next one is the most important, most exciting thing that's happening in our ministry right now is that God has brought this young couple, Mike and Jane Kaufman, and their son Jace, to join us in May of 2020. Mike and Jane come from 9 years of ministry and at the sports ministry, and felt that it was time to move on from that ministry. And we happened to go to the same church, and it was one of those phone calls you get, hey, can we go to lunch with you? We just want to talk about what you do. And you're like, okay, great. We're like, yeah. Oh, that's what you want to talk about. So it was a number of months of conversations, really seeing where the Lord was moving in their hearts. And for us, John and I, we wear the title of Directors of Teams for Medical Missions. And one of the things that's very important to us is we build into the missionaries. And so learning where their giftedness is, where God is leading them as a couple, we feel very strongly the burden and the opportunity to help them live out the goals and the calling that God's given them. So it was very scary in May of 2020 when they came on, and they're now our new missionaries. We're like, okay, great. We can't take any teams to Jamaica, but we're going to get you going. So it's been a joy. They've been really tremendous working with them and helping see them embrace the mission field, which is Jamaica, and discover where God's leading them to use their gifts as a couple. That's one thing that's been really important to them, is that the ministry that they were in before, though his wife, Jane, was not as much involved. It didn't work out like they had hoped. And so just trying to find ways to really implement them as a couple. And that's been really important to us.
Good. The other piece of that is they needed to understand what Jamaica was like. We were going to use the J teams as the kind of the way to do that. They would tag along. They would see what we're doing. While we're there, we would kind of get them introduced to some other folks around. And so although we couldn't take J teams, we could still go. It took a while for us to go. There was a few months where nobody was traveling anywhere. Nobody's letting us go anywhere. But we have been able since then to go down lots of times with them, so they can become better acquainted with Jamaica itself, but also develop some relationships. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go along as well. One of the things that we were looking at is, okay, we can't go and we can't bring teams in Jamaica. I mean, it's hitting Jamaica just like it's hitting everywhere else without the tourist industry. The tourist industry dropped down to 10% in terms of their hotel usage and stuff was dropped down about 10%. So a lot of folks, that's where their jobs are. That's where the finances come from, and so they're out of work with no place to get more work. They're day to day on their food anyway, and so even more so at this point. So we did a lot more in the area of relief, is what we were looking to do, and so one of those ways that we knew how to do that was we had stuff on our own property that needed to be done, that you kind of at some point we'll get around to it, or at some point we'll make that a priority because it's funds that are involved. And we said, we might as well do it now. And we were able to hire a lot of Jamaican help and provide some work while still getting some things done. So that was very helpful. So for us, we redid our driveway. It was breaking up in different places. It was also had a funky ridge in the middle because it used to be a wall there. When the water would come down, it would go places it wasn't supposed to, all those kind of things. So we had that redone, and he actually got creative and gave us a little moat of sorts, which keeps the water from coming inside the house. It's actually very, very nice. So actually, it's pretty cool. Turned out well. The guy that was doing this for us is Omar. He's the one there in blue, and Omar used to work with teams for quite a while, way back when. He knew Harold very well. Actually, he used to be the caretaker for the house right next to us, I guess, back in the day when Harold and Terry were first down there. And so he got to know them well. He is a Mason. but he's a jack of all trades because he says mason work isn't always available, so you got to figure out something else to do to feed your family. He's got, his wife and 5 kids at home, one of which is a niece that they've taken in, and all the others are his, and he's unique because they have 4 kids, they're an intact family, and they're all his kids and all her kids together, as opposed to lots of different, whatever we call them, I can't remember now.
Blended families.
Thank you. That's the nice term. And so he's unique in a lot of ways. And with Omar has been a real blessing to us. After the guys died, he kind of disappeared, like a lot of folks did, for about 3 years. By disappeared, I mean we didn't see him. I mean he lives right up the hill, but we never saw him. And after about 3 years, he came back and says, John, you know what? I think it's time to start getting involved back in the ministry again. Is there some way we can help? And so he has become our foreman. He's the one that's in charge of all of our house building, of making sure that it actually goes up straight and not crooked. We get all the right materials. When we don't have enough help from the States, he hires Jamaicans to help out and those kind of things. He takes care of all that for us. He's also the one that's taking care of our property in terms of whenever we're doing renovations. Right now at present, I guess that's later. We'll talk about that later. How to keep on track here. All right.
The one thing I would just say about Omar is that he really has the pulse in the community, and he is one of the men that we really covet his knowledge and his understanding of the people in the community to help us determine what needs should be priorities in building a house. Because we could build a house every day, but there's that much need, but just trying to discern where the Lord's moving and what would be best. And we just love him a lot. He's been a very dear friend, and he does a really great job of pulling in young men in the community he knows who need work. That was the one thing I wanted you to say is, like, with the relief funds, he found other men who had families, and we were able to provide work for them. The other thing is our staff. We have Miss Yvette is in the middle, and Avery is on the right side, and Mitzi's on the left. Mitzi's a full-time employee. She's with us all year. She's our house manager. But Miss Yvette and Avery, and Mitzi's son O'Shane is a good friend of our ministry. I need to mention O'Shane first, but Miss Yvette and Avery don't work if we don't have J teams, and we just felt really burdened that we couldn't bring teams, but they still had needs as a family. So we were able to bring relief funds to them throughout 2020 and into 2021, so that they continued to receive the funds that they would have received when we had a J team.
Again, folks were extremely generous because we said, hey guys, this is here's the need of the specific folks that we work with on a regular basis. And people were extremely generous. Made that happen. All right. Patrick Marshall, another one of our ministry partners on the ground. He and Omar are making sure that our food distribution is happening on a regular basis. We were doing it about every 3 months when we would come down, and they basically said the need's huge. Can we extend that? And so we have been able to extend that to a monthly basis. So we basically provide about $500 a month. And they go and they purchase all the food. We have a local store near us that we partner with, and so we get good prices from them. And it's also local, so we're supporting the local economy. And so we buy all our food from there. Although we also have on the right side, you'll see is some huge bags of rice and things. There is a ministry called Food for the Poor in Jamaica, and every once in a while they have stuff that we can go down and get that as well and put that in with the mix. And then we take it back to the house and we repackage it into smaller containers, and then we can pass it out to about 60 families. Well, yeah, about 60 families. And while for some families it lasted 2 or 3 days, for some it lasts a little longer than that, but it's something on a consistent basis that they can look forward to and they can expect. And so that's ongoing even while we're not down there.
So these are some of the things that we did initially when COVID hit. And I wrote on my newsletter, we were just praying, Lord, what can we do? What can we do? We want to have a presence in this community. We don't want them to feel like we've dropped off the face of the earth and that nobody cares. But we're not sure what to do because the Ministry of Health would not allow us to bring J Team. So we got a call from Callie Hensel. I don't know if you remember, Randy and Sarah Hensel were our missionaries, and her father, Randy, was killed in 2016. It happened at a time when Callie was not walking with the Lord, and it was her graduation weekend that she was waiting for Dad to come home so they could have a family party. To say that the family was devastated is just not even touch it. But God, in His grace, worked in her heart. She went away to college. She got involved in a really precious ministry, I think called the Seed Company out in Iowa. And she came to know the Lord, and she just hopped in a car with a friend who was going to Colorado to check out YWAM one weekend and said, I want to do this. So she left after her first semester of college and went out to YWAM. And the Lord has taken her on a journey of being on a YWAM team to being trainers and being a missionary with YWAM, and has just done a marvelous work in her heart, healing all the hurts in her heart and truly giving her a love for the people of Jamaica, which is just a gift of the grace of God. And so in November of 19, she had come down and we'd had a good visit, but she called and said, we can't go anywhere with our outreach teams, our discipleship training center, and they're looking for places. Would you all consider it? We said, we would love to consider it. Well, her director said, look, we're going to send a team to Jamaica, but the only way we'll do it is if you'll go with us, if you'll lead this team. She said she took a couple days and prayed and talked to some of her advisors and said, okay, because this was not an easy thing to say yes to. And she said yes. And so God provided. There was going to be a team of 13, then 11 of them came down with COVID. We're like, Lord, this isn't going to happen. And then by God's grace, they tested negative and they were able to come 2 weeks later. So what was going to be a 12-week team became a 6-week team, and when it was all said and done, or 8 weeks.
12 is what they normally do.
Right.
8 is what they're going to do with us, and end up becoming 6.
Yeah, that's right. So they came, they had to quarantine in the house, and they did a lot of work projects. It was really fun. We usually have older teams. They're all doctors and nurses. So it was pretty fun for us. And the Kaufmans were with us. We loved hosting them. And what they provided for our community was, after their quarantine time, they went out and they would do, in the afternoon, they would go up to the ball field and play games with the kids and do Bible stories and communicate with the children. And it was just precious what they did for our community. It also provided us an inroads for Mike and Jane Kaufman to meet some of the leaders of the team, of the community, for some of the children in the community that we didn't know. Callie is just a precious gift from God. I mean, she's a really sweet young lady, but she also brought to some of the young men who were around us who felt very discouraged and sad that Harold was taken from them. She's the only one who could say, I got it worse than you. It was my dad, but yet I've returned to the Lord and I love him and I know he loves you. And so we loved hosting them. It was a tremendous joy to just walk with them through this and to see how the Lord was working in their lives. This woman with the orange turban, her name is Miss Marie, and she's one of the folks that they introduced us to. She's just got a tremendous heart for her community. She's a seamstress, and so we have gone and we worked with her again in August, and it's one of the things we're trying to tell you is that when we now have teams, we have ministry partners in Jamaica that God's called us to come alongside to help them and to make ministry happen in this community. And it's just getting started, and we're pretty excited to see what God's doing.
While they're there, one of the things they did was also build a house. Again, it wasn't just a house for somebody. It's somebody that's been waiting for a house for 2.5 years. I guess with us, there's certain things that have to be in place before you can get your house, and she was having trouble getting those things. And she's got 6 kids. They all live in this. If you've seen any of our homes, it's the size of a large bedroom. maybe a little bit bigger than that. And so it's all 6 people living underneath that roof, and they were ecstatic because they had a place to stay now, as opposed to when they were just trying to figure out a place before. So they had the joy of doing that, as well as continuing ministry that whole week with her family as well. Let's see. In the evenings, we also tried to expose them to, or not expose, but introduce them to other ways that ministry is done in Jamaica, other than just the way that we do it. So we had a lot of our ministry partners that would come in and talk to them. This night it was the Turodes, Ken and Eileen Turode, and they have a very different approach than we do, and we can talk all night about the Turodes. They are a tremendous encouragement. They are deep spiritual people. And it's just exciting. They don't believe in telling somebody how much, what they need. They just pray and God will touch somebody's heart and it'll come. And they don't do this kind of stuff. They just live there and have been for
a long time,
40 years, whatever. And yeah, if we need food, God will provide it. You know, it's just like, and he does. Well, of course he does, but shouldn't you ask somebody? Anyway, so it's really cool. So anyway, we had a number of different folks that we came to come and be a part of those times as well. All right. Since then, Mike and I were there, and we were kind of saying, "Hey, Mike, what do you see? What do you think? Talk to me about what's stirring your heart now that you've been here in Jamaica for a little bit. What is God calling you to do? Look at your gifts. What are you thinking?" And he said, "Yeah, I really think the sports ministry is something we could really use here." That's his background. And we're up on that first picture balcony, looking down. And when you look down, you could see this. This is if you've been on the J team, this is the pavilion where all the kids used to meet. And off to the left there, that little
playground.
Brown structure is a playground. This is from up top. We look at that, and he said, "What if we built a basketball court?" And so we talked about that, talked that through, and we said, "You know what? It's a good idea. Let's pursue that." And we first started looking down below, because that looks, the whole backyard is at a slant, but that looks pretty flat down there. And so we had Omar come out and look at it, and speed it up. This is a fun story.
I know, you'll tell them later. Lunch.
So I think Pat needs you out back. So anyway, we get out there, and Omar draws a line for me, attaches a string, and we get to the end of where the court would be. And he's this high, and he's going, "This all has to be cement filled in." And I'm kind of going, "That's going to be expensive," because we're talking 30 feet wide and 50 feet long. And so we opted to put it right where the pavilion and the playground is instead. And we still had 2 or 3 feet. So this is our new court. And it's amazing, and we love it. And we were, it's one of those, if you build it, they will come moments, we were hoping. And it's been an incredible part of the Kaufman's ministry as that has begun as well. While we were there, we also had our BTC graduation of classes 6 and 7. And the lady standing up in the middle there, that is Sarah Hensel, Callie's mom, Randy's wife. And she was a huge part of the beginning of BTC as well. So she likes to come back when she can and participate, especially in the graduations. That was a cool time. And of course, our director now is Paul Hemmings. And be praying for the ministry right now. The potential is still huge there. We were excited there for a while because things were growing and classes were being added. And then COVID hits, and they say you can only have this many people meet. And so for the couple classes that are still going right now, it's okay because they would fall underneath those numbers. But when you start a class, it's about a 3.5-year program. So you want to start with a large class because there's always attrition that happens. So if you only start with 10, you might end up with 1. So we like to start with about 25 to 30. Well, that was over all the numbers, so we couldn't start new classes. So be praying. It's a discouraging time for that. We got people that want to join, want to come, but we say we just can't. We're not allowed to start them yet. So continue to pray for the VTC there, if you would.
This is Elaine Ramsarov. Some of the pictures we've been including is we want you to see who some of our ministry partners are. Elaine and her husband, her husband Joe, have been driving for us since way before John and I were there, over 20 years. They are a lovely couple and they love the Lord very much. And but we asked them to be on our board. They provide for us wisdom and insight. Joe has built his house from the ground up, and there's pretty much no tool he has not tried and does not know how to use. So they provide for us a lot of insight and help, and just we're really thankful for them. And plus the driving and all kinds of things. The next one is a good friend of mine. Her name is Linda Robinson, and I could talk to you for an hour about Linda Robinson and her faith in the Lord. And but she came alongside me shortly after Harold and Randy died and grabbed me and gave me a big hug and just breathed words of encouragement into my ear, saying she had been there and she knew what was going on. But she also, as our friendship developed, she just wanted to help us. She goes, "Can I just come to all the clinics and talk to the patients? Can I come?" And she did. She started coming every time. And she has, again, been that person who knows the people in the community and brings it, "Hey, you need to talk to them. You need to pray with them." And just, she wants to reach her community, and we're tremendously blessed to be able to work alongside with her and help her reach her community. This is the point where we need to share with you some news. Our friend Ann Clay has been with us since 2004. And teams, Ruth and Ray were praying for a medical team member to come along and to help them with the medical aspect of the ministry. And Annie had been praying to be a missionary pharmacist since she was a little girl. And they collided on a airplane on the way to Jamaica, and Ray and Ruth invited her to come on and be a full-time missionary with Teams for Medical Missions. So Annie has been our medical director, medical coordinator. I get all these names now. Medical coordinator for 17 years, and she has done a tremendous job. She has been she took care of all the details. She would run the clinics and gave directions, and the clinics became what a lot of people like to call a well-oiled machine. And that was because of Anne and her experience in pharmacy, that she just had everything organized in such a way. But during the time of COVID, as we were all praying, "Lord, what would you have us do?" the Lord stirred in her heart that it was time for her to leave Teams for Medical Missions. So in May, she gave us her notice, and she said that the Lord was moving her into a very similar ministry, but in Lehigh Valley. She's now with Lehigh Valley Hospitals. They're doing a street ministry. They have several clinics in the community, and so she is the clinical pharmacist for two of the clinics there, helping patients that have significant needs and using her heart and compassion for people that she's been known for in Jamaica there in the Lehigh Valley. So that leaves a hole in our ministry, and we would really appreciate your prayers for that. We don't feel like God is calling us to move away from being Teams for Medical Missions, but we are not sure exactly who God's leading because we can't bring medical teams right now. We've always dreamed we'd love to have somebody who's medical, would love to be on the ground. We'd love to see who God has next for us. That's what I guess I should say. We know that He's got a plan for it. If the Ministry of Health were to get back to us and say we could bring a team in February, we have some plans with some of our medical professionals that have come with us. We think we could put together a plan that we could continue to do it for a little while, but we do need help long term. So that's
the plan. Is for the medical piece to remain. It's too big of who we are. It's too big of
need.
Well, definitely a need there as well, but it's also just too big of the T4MM family is the medical piece. And the issue is we just don't know what it's going to look like. So to hire somebody right now, in some ways would be presumptuous and silly, because we may find out, actually the skill set we need is more along this line, not along this line. And again, we can get somebody that actually lives down there full time, that would be awesome. So,
It's not to say we wouldn't take applications.
no, just true.
All right. The woman in the middle, her name is Chrisia Bailey. And while we were there in this summer, Chrisia has a tremendous heart for her community. And she was taking out of her own funds to feed a whole, I don't know how many shut-ins. She would bring a meal and bring a prayer and a song and encourage people who couldn't get out of their house. And she would cook all the food and take it to them every Saturday for a couple of years. And she built a little hut. So she's selling some food during the week so she can raise enough money to take it to the shut-ins and be an encouragement. So this is us going over to buy food from her hut so that she could pay for food to take to the shut-ins. But she also helps us at the clinics. She loves coming in the morning and helping with our registration table and helping us work with, help us get people all signed up for the clinics. And just, she was so funny. The first day she goes, I'm a missionary too. So she's it's a joy to see folks who love the Lord and love their community and just to really be able to help them plug in any way we can. And
well, and her food's amazing. So it's a real struggle to help support that,
for sure.
Ministry.
Well,
we have a ministry opportunity.
Hook you up with some jerk chicken. This is so the first real team that came over the last 2 years was in August, and it was Pastor and Mrs. Smith from Hampton, Virginia, and Venus and Ray Suddeth from Owings Mills, Maryland. Venus is the only one who had been here before. Venus was the one who wrote to me and said, have vaccination ready to come on a J team, put me in. I'm like, nobody else could come. And so then we went back and forth, and with this team started to come together. And she said, well, my husband's never been on a mission trip of any kind before. But when he heard y'all were doing basketball, he's all in. So it was really cool to be able to provide them an opportunity to serve together. And Pastor Smith and his church in Hampton Restoration Church has been supporting us for years. And he's new at the church and would like to see them bring people to Jamaica so some of the members of his church could begin to get involved in ministry overseas. They designed us a cool shirt for us. And so Bible Blast was in the morning for the children. And this was the first time since Harold and Randy died that we had children on the property. I got tears in my eyes hearing the kids sing, watching them run. But unfortunately, with COVID restrictions, we're trying so hard to be good. We said, we got to keep it to about 30 kids. And some in the community were like, you can't do that. You can't turn any kid away. How could you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, but God's called me to do this and I'm going to have to trust him. And so by his provision, we had 42 in all. Not everybody came the same day. Just the right number of kids came, and it was just a blessing. We did crafts. You can see we did Bible stories. We did activities out on the court and snack. And it was just a tremendous joy to have this happening. The other little fun thing was we had it, and some of the kids that used to be on our Bible clubbers, we called them blue shirts. They were helpers for Harold and Terry. They came back unannounced. They just showed up and started helping and plugging in. So we know God's called us to children's ministry on this property, and we are looking forward to what it is. We don't know exactly since no one is there full time yet, but we want to continue to bring God's good news to the kids in that community. And it was just a tremendous blessing to be able to do that.
So in the mornings, we did Bible Blast, and in the evenings, we would focus on the basketball clinic. And the basketball clinic was supposed to be for 11-year-olds and up. The Bible Blast was supposed to be 6 to 10, and we had some that were 3 and 4, and some that were 12 in the
15.
Bible Blast, and then we had some that were 9, at the whatever. And so in the evenings, the basketball we had, I think, about 25?
About 25 altogether.
And most nights we had most of those kids. Again, it was Mike Smith was the one that was heading that all up. Mike is 6'8", played ball in college, played ball overseas, and had a lot to share. And so that was fun. We had 2 mics, and so we called them 6'8" and 6'2", to keep them straight. I don't know why they didn't call me 5'9", but anyway.
One little tidbit, y'all, Jamaica's not known for their basketball players. And it was fun because it was something he could share with those kids. It was new. I mean, yes, they played basketball and there's a hoop here and there, but not very many. And so it was really fun for him to start from the ground up teaching basketball. Even better was when the girls started showing up, because believe it or not, in 2021, girls don't play basketball in Jamaica. They play netball. I was like, what?
Netball is no backboard.
No dribbling.
No dribbling. So think of it as ultimate frisbee with the basketball. You run, once you get the ball, you have to stop, and you pass, and you shoot in a hoop, regular basketball hoop, but no backboard.
So it was fun to introduce the girls to basketball.
So they had a lot of this. They had a lot of the skills already, but they did a lot of traveling for some reason. So the basketball was fun. Enjoyed. We had a number of kids that were super serious about learning the drills and learning how to really play, and a bunch of them saying, "Can we just play ball now, please?" And it worked out really well. And so this was the first official clinic kind of thing we've done with basketball. Up to this time, Mike was just having people come and play basketball, and he would teach them some things, and he'd share a little devotional, but for the most part, it was just playing ball. So it was an excellent time. There's a specific young man involved that while I had to go back down for a week for something specific that came up, and so I told him, "Hey guys, I'm here. You guys can come play ball all week if you want to." And one of those guys was running it back there, and he's running drills and getting them set up, and they're playing ball. He sets up the teams, and if somebody's having a bad attitude, he sits them down. Next guy gets in, and they all listen to him. I was going, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." So very exciting. There's some real potential for Mike to continue to be using with these young men and even some young women there as well. So we're very excited about that piece. So, and that's from the backyard up the slant, looking at it. Nice thing is we put lights around the court so we can play at night too. And when you do that, it looks like an airport. So during COVID, we said, "Hey guys, you can play till it's dark, but you can't play after dark because everybody in the whole place will know that we have a group of people here." So anyway, this one is the carport that we have. It wasn't completed at the time.
That Omar built.
That Omar built. And this is the picture before it was there. Now this was before we ever came on with teams. Reason for this picture is if you look back where those on the side there, you see the little building on the right.
Underneath the flowers.
Underneath the flowers, the little building on the right.
It goes like this high. It's falling down. Yeah,
that is what our water tanks are on. Basically what we want to do is we're moving the water tanks over to this side of the house, which is happening as we're speaking now. That's going to be torn down, and there's going to be another, our storage building is going to go this direction, and the back end will be where that is, and it'll match the front end of the carport. So it'll be perpendicular to the carport in the back.
Our builders will be absolutely ecstatic because they'll be able to pull the truck in and offload all the supplies in a storage closet, not out in the elements, and store it and clean. And the other exciting thing is that we have a table saw and different things like that had been sitting out in the elements. We'll have a covered place to work with those as we get ready for building projects, and hopefully be able to do some training with some of the young men in the area. It gives us a place and an ability to start doing some more formalized training.
So question is where do we go from here? One of the things that we're looking at, have been looking at for a long time, is we want to add to our team. We'd like to have 2 or 3 couples that are living in Jamaica that make a team. Jamaica is a difficult place to minister, and it is close to impossible to do it alone. It can become a very discouraging place. And so to have a team that feeds each other, that encourages each other, that allows you to kind of stick out the difficult times. And so as such, we are looking to continue to expand that. And we're open to lots of solutions for that. One of the things we're excited about is the possibility of a young couple coming to work with us. The man on the left, next to the really good-looking guy right there in the middle. is Nicholas Walsh. He is our youngest BTC student. He started when he was 17 and completed the program. And then Randy took him under his wing and started to train him, and he became an assistant instructor under Randy. And that was about that time that Randy was taken. And so he took over the classes, and he continued to be one of our best instructors. He became part of the leadership team for BTC. And then he felt like he needed to have some more personal development himself. So he went down to Jamaica Theological Seminary, which is actually Bible college level. And he's got one more semester, one more year. I can't remember which.
I'll graduate in May.
Graduate in May. And when he's done with that. So we go down to Disney whenever we can. And he has, and Keziah, or Kezi, grew up all the way through the Bible Club. And she has now completed her college education down there. She has a promise ring from Nicholas. They're not engaged yet. He does not want to pop the question until he knows that he's going to be able to care for her and supply for her. And so, but we're all just waiting for when it comes. And so once that comes, and once they get settled a bit, we're going to pounce and say, okay, now's time, come. But be praying for them because that's actually a real possibility. This isn't just wouldn't it be nice? We think this is a real possibility, and they would do very well with the Kaufmans that we have on board as well. So we got about 5 minutes left, I think, ish. Any questions?
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The basketball court you built, it was in place of that pavilion in the playground?
Correct.
I saw like something in the earth, like an amphitheater. Can you move that stuff in?
Actually, the amphitheater was already there, and we actually got to use that with the Bible Blast. We have the pavilion that's there. Actually, the court can be used in the same way that the pavilion was used. We actually put we have a parachute, believe it or not, down there, an actual parachute, Navy parachute. I have no idea where it came from. Put it up, and it worked pretty well until the wind ripped it off the fence. But anyway, long story, short story actually. Maybe we'll do it again. We'll see. But that works for that. In terms of the playground equipment, we'll probably rebuild something at some point down on that spot where I was going to try to put the basketball court.
All the fencing and concrete, what did it cost to build that?
What did it cost to build that basketball court?
It was a very long
Yeah.
process. We may have to come back to you on that because
Yeah.
I really don't remember.
It was lots and lots of stages. I don't remember to be at this point.
You'd be guessing.
We did it. Yeah, we did it in pieces all along the way. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, how many teams do you schedule now from now to like the end of the year through so it's still restricted how many people
We are still restricted. Again, we're more restricted in what we can do than how many people we can bring. But what we can do is what most people that we bring, that's what they come for, which is the J team. And so right now we're going back in 2 weeks. We're having our family week, as we're calling it. Our son is coming down with us. Mike Kaufman's parents are coming down with us. And then we have one other couple that we consider them family. They've been part of ministry for a long time. They're coming down as well. The purpose of that week, October 18th through about the 30th, so about 10 days, was to, we would be in the new house. We would inventory the house. We would clean the house. We would move stuff around.
Get the Kaufmans
And
moved in.
so we're kind of going, yeah, probably not going to happen. It's just the process there has taken so long. And so on top of that, we're going to try to do some ministry in the community. So we'll probably do a whole lot more ministry in the community with our family team. But another big part of that was so that Mike's parents could see where they are. They are the type of parents, grandparents that have a lot of time that they can kind of pick up and go. And like so, I think we'll probably see them quite a bit in Jamaica. So it gives them a chance to see how things look. Following that, we have two work teams planned back to back. And as at present, we don't have anybody that's volunteered, committed for those. So we had about 7, 8 people that were interested, but just it wasn't working out. So we're still doing the projects. That's what we're going to begin, the building project, the storage building. But that's going to take probably about a month and a half because it's all concrete. And so everything has to, it's all stages.
As we've been by faith praying that we could have people come down. I mean, please pray with us. We would still love to see people come down in November, but for a lot of different reasons, no one's been able to commit to coming down then. Then in 2022, we've decided to go ahead with our normal J-Team schedule. So those who had been committed for the February J-Team are going to come. Some are even medical professionals, and we're going to plug them into the community. If we can set up a clinic, we will. But if not, we'll be doing ministry with them in the community. So February, they can come as tourists because they can come and they can minister in our community. I mean, in our team's property for the most part. We wouldn't be getting big groups together. So we can work with that. And they can come as tourists.
Again, there's any one of you can just go to Jamaica if you want to. There's no restrictions that way. There's to hold a clinic. So those are the only things that are in the way for that. And so we can still build. We can still do kids ministry. We can still do food distribution. We can still do ministry in the community. So we're looking at the same J-Team structure and just telling people, hey, you know, if things open up and do medicine, we'll let you know. If you're medical, if we can't, we'll say we're still going, but we're not doing medical. You still want to go or not? You're not going to be doing medical. You're going to be doing kids ministry or something else. So we're still going to be having teams. We just won't have the medical piece until we're given the green light for that.
I think we've run over our time.